everybody, this is Rhys Barber from Audiology Associates. Thanks very much for watching our earwax removal video today. Now this was a bit more than unusual. This lovely patient came through feeling very blocked up on one side, but actually has no hearing in the other ear. He had a mastoid cavity, he had a mastoidectomy, sorry, which is where they take the mastoid bone from the back of the ear here away because of multiple infections. So this is actually the patient's better ear. This is the ear they rely on most for their hearing. And you can see we are very blocked up. So this patient just suddenly hearing just went. And that's because this block of skin and wax here had actually shifted in the canal and moved a little bit deeper. And that's what's caused the hearing issue. So at the moment, I'm clearing the better of the two ears. So it's coming away nicely. It's not coming away as one big lump. It's coming away as lots of kind of layers almost of wax and skin. But it is coming away. So we're going to get this patient hearing much better. They were really struggling to hear, bless them, when they came through the clinic, but it's looking really good there. There we are. We've got a grip on one of the slightly harder pieces, so let's draw that out of the canal and see what's going on behind. I think we've started to expose part of the eardrum. Not quite. So let's get rid of this next section. You can see as these little harder pieces almost jump off the wax towards the suction. But it then unfortunately blocks the suction tube, which is what you can see happening here. So we've got to keep taking this out and taking the bits off the end, flushing this through all the time. So we'll just get to this deeper section. There we are. Now that grey blue you can see at the bottom of the screen there, that's actually the eardrum. So we're just going to clear all these last little bits in front here. Stay tuned for the mastoid clearance, which is coming up next. I'll do it. It's quite a long one, the next one, so I'll go through explain about the mastoid and bits and pieces now in a second when we get to that bit. But we're really clearing this away nicely. You can see the eardrum there. Patient hearing so much better. Very relieved. Oh, a little bit of dry skin here at the top of the ear canal. So let's get rid of that. Just almost like in the attic, I suppose we call this section at the front here. Let's get rid of that. Out that comes, eardrum looking good. Lack of a light reflex would be that this patient does have quite a severe history of ear issues. Okay, so this is the patient's second ear. They're not hearing, they don't hear at all from this ear, or very poor hearing. Now, why would somebody have an operation to remove the bone? Mastoidectomy is actually where they remove the mastoid bone. So this is your mastoid bone that's running behind your ear canal here, or behind the ear there. Now, I want you to imagine that bone as like a honeycomb or a sponge. So basically it's lots and lots of tiny little air pockets in there, if you like, or tiny little gaps in that bone. What can happen if somebody gets a very severe infections? So this particular gent had been suffering with ear infections repeatedly from age 10 and had this mastoidectomy done about 10 years ago. So what they do with that is they actually cut away this bone at the back here. And the reason for that is sometimes you can get the infection into that bone, which is ridiculously painful and very difficult to treat. So they'll remove that bone. Unfortunately, when they remove the bone, what happens then is the ear canal expands out. So basically you hollow out around the ear canal. So instead of having this sort of cylinder, it hollows around the sides of it. So you end up with this really big expanse in there. Now I know Taylor showed you a mastoidectomy or in Waxford. I think it was on day 24 Waxford. So you'll be able to see one that had dry skin in it. Now it's really important to keep this nice and clean, because what happens when the skin tries to migrate out of this mastoid is that you interrupt the migration process by cutting away that bone, and the skin never really heals properly in a way that the migration process can continue. So you end up with lots of dead skin. So we'd normally recommend you get these cleaned out or checked over every sort of 12 months or 6 months, 12 months, depending on how much is built up. This particular gent has never had that done. So we have 10 years worth of dead skin and all sorts built up in here, which is what you can see me removing now. Now the difficulty with this one, Taylor's mastoid, the skin was very hard. This one, the skin is almost floppy. It's soft. you end up with layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of dead skin. And in this case, the skin's gone wet, which means you have a dickens of a job trying to get this out. So what you're going to try and do here is, you can see I'm trying to clamp onto this skin because the skin itself has some structure. So it's binding itself together. And with all these layers, then they're all kind of stuck almost together, one on top of the other. But if you try and use the crocodile forceps, it's so thin that it just kind of shears through. And if you try and use the Jobson horn, which is what you can see us do here now, look what happens as you try and pull this out. It kind of unravels the skin. So you can see we're trying to pick this up. Look how wet and white that skin is. So we've got this harder wax debris and this very white. And as we're doing this, we're pulling more and more of this down the ear canal. Yeah, it's always a tough one to do. You can see me working on this skin really hard here. Now this ear canal is going to be messy behind all this, even when we get the dead skin away, because obviously it's never really been looked after through no fault of the patients. I think they've just fallen through the cracks somewhere with their follow-ups. But you can see we're holding on to this, but as I'm trying to kind of work this out, the skin behind is really hanging on to it, and it just shears through that softer material at the front. So I'm using a combination of tools here. We're using suction. You can see I'm dropping over the top, but as we pull this down, look how do you see how it doesn't, there's nothing really to grip onto with the Jobson horn to pull this through. You just kind of, everything just kind of unravels in front of it, and you end up with these long sort of kind of strips all coming out here. There we go. You can see it's really starting to come through. We've pulled this section out towards the outside edge. I'm going to grip on this with the forceps here. Just wiggled that bit, broke that bit away, but look at how it's drawing more of this down. I think you'll be very surprised just how much material will fit in this canal. So if you imagine, I don't know, the average adult ear canal, imagine a bit like your little finger going up to just past maybe your first knuckle. Now imagine putting two fingers together, and that's the kind of size of the ear canal that you're going to get when you've had a patient with a mastoidectomy, and it'll tend to sort of go off into a cavity in somewhere. The eardrum will be very difficult to distinguish in some cases as well. But a lot of all this dead skin's coming away. Look how we lift it. You can see it's drawing from all angles around this ear canal. So you've got to be really careful, because sometimes they'll go up, sometimes they'll go to the left, sometimes to the right, sometimes it'll go down. So you've really kind of got to get a good old grip on this. But look how that material is just not budging. It is holding so tightly in there. Now, as far as what the patient feels, in this case, patient really wouldn't feel a lot of pulling sensations going on in there, but this isn't going to hurt. This is not, this is not living skin. This is dead, detached skin. So it's not really going to be unpleasant for the patient here. When you get a bit closer to the existing canal wall, then it can be a little bit sensitive at that point. Gosh, look at it. It is so wet. And the patient didn't come in to have this ear removed. So bless them, they were sat in the chair for quite a long time to get this done. See how I'm lifting, and you can see the whole thing. This is one big massive skin in here. I'm trying to find any angle to work this out. I'm trying to lift from the side, pull down from the top. The suction tube is holding on. We're getting a good grip here, and this is immune even to turbo wiggling, guys. This is really tough old stuff. Just going to sneak over the top again now. Let's see if we can draw this down again. But see how it just pulls through the middle of it, and all of this is attached to existing skin on the canal walls everywhere, and it's just pulling out the center. Oh my goodness, you can see why you have to have this done on a regular basis, because obviously when it gets to this point, it is so difficult to get this out. There we go, got another big, a lot came out there, a nice big chunk of soft skin there. I'm aiming, you can see I'm aiming for the slightly darker pieces. They tend to be the tougher bits. So the very light material, you can see there tends to be that little bit softer, which is great for getting a grip on with suction. But the harder pieces tend to be the slightly darker color. You can see just as I lift this up, that little darker material getting exposed there. And as I'm pulling, you can see I'm trying to draw this around the corner, pull it down from the attic. It's a lot. I mean, the patient was so surprised because obviously when we take this out, we pop it onto a little tissue by the side of the suction machine, which is what you guys see me lining it all up on at the end. So sometimes the patients will see this coming away and they couldn't get over just how much was in this ear canal. You can see that white, soft skin debris coming away. Look how it just it just pulls through it. There we go, let's give that a bit of a lift. See a little bit of skin and debris stuck to the cilia on the outside part, which is what was just in front of the camera there. Okay, now we're just starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here. If I look just above, I can see that you can actually see past this initial section going further in. Before, that's all we could see was a solid amount of wax and skin here. Look at that. Look at that piece coming away. These bits of skin are huge that are coming out of this ear canal, and still there's more. Really trying to wiggle this last bit. Now I can see just at the bottom of the canal, one thing you do have to be careful of with a mastoid, especially one that's been left as long as this without clearing, is sometimes it can actually start to degrade the canal wall underneath, because this old dead skin's been here for such a long time. So it can actually start to degrade the skin underneath, and you'll get these little sort of pockets where the skin's degraded that much, you're almost down to right on top of the skull in places here. So you have to be really careful with this. Now I can see there's a very dark section at the base of the canal here. Now I think that's very hardened up skin and wax, but I'm going to give that a go at removing that in a second. I'm just sneaking around the corner a little bit here with the Jobson horn, drawing. You can look at that whole section coming forwards there. Do you see that moving forwards? So we've got the grip on this bottom section, the whole chunk behind it came away. Look at that coming away, guys. That is a huge piece of skin. And it's actually drawn this neck section down. What you can see just, oh, missed it. What you'll see just over the top of this neck section of skin, that's actually the eardrum back there. And the cavity goes off to the right-hand side, if I remember correctly. So what you'll get here is this cavity goes off to the right, and it kind of, you'll see this sort of a bump of where the original cavity was, original canal was, I'm sorry, and then this has extended it out. But look at that wet material coming away there. You can see it's sticking to the cilia on its way out as well. That's just how kind of tacky and sticky this is. There we go, drawing more of this skin again here. There we go, another section of skin gone. Now it's really starting to loosen up, and that does happen when you break that initial, if you imagine this plug's been in here for such a long time and folded like, oh goodness, everyone gave me, somebody said baklava, I think it was, or like a kind of, I think it's a phyllo pastry, but you know, those layers like this. I wish I'd paid attention to a Great British Bake Off, but you get these kind of layers that are forming on here, and they've been compressed and compressed and compressed over a long period of time. So to tease those apart is really difficult, but when you do finally get it, the whole thing just falls apart in front of you, and you can take these sections away. This is that dark, hard section, excuse me, I was talking about earlier at the base of the canal. So I'm holding this and just lifting slightly. If this is absolutely solid, which it doesn't look like the surface is here, so if it's absolutely solid, I would maybe leave this behind and get this patient back, because I've agreed with the patient that we're going to see them in 6 months' time, because when you're removing a lot of skin debris like we are here, you leave that ear canal a little bit open to infection and things like that. So we agree the patient, you know, keep this as dry as you possibly can, because we want these layers that have been wet to dry out and toughen up a little bit. And you can see that's the eardrum actually sitting past this darker section we just got a good look at there. So just above the section we're working on now, right in the distance, that's the eardrum. There we go, you can see I'm really lifting. Look at that, it is tough. You can see the dead skin underneath. This poor patient, bless him. Really starting to come away now. Let's get this out. We did crocodile forceps on this bit, I think. Yep, there you go, crocodile forceps on this one. Let's get a good clamp onto that. Oh, I just missed it. It's just too wide. There's not enough for a grip there. So let's get behind it with a Jobson horn. Let's roll this gently forwards. Look at that coming away there. You can see all that wet, dead, degraded skin underneath as well. There we go. It's sludgy. Sluffy is a good way of describing this. There we go. I've pulled that out now, so you can see the top section there, the bit that I'm actually pushing the Jobson horn into, that was that harder lump. All that was underneath that lump there, and you'll see remnants of it here. So let's lift this off as well. There we go. All of that dead skin underneath there. And now we're starting to get something that looks a bit like an ear canal wall. Look at them. You can see what I mean about where the skin comes from. Look at how this is peeling. You see how it's peeling away from the skin underneath? But the skin underneath's been sitting under this dead skin for such a long time. You've got to be really careful with this. If you pull too much of this away in one go, you run the risk of bleeding here as well. So I'm just going to probe this section, looking at different parts, how that comes away. If it comes away really easily, it's dead. It was going to come away. If it's really holding on to that canal wall, then that's probably attached to some living skin underneath. I'd want this to toughen up a little bit before we looked at removing any more. So look how that is peeling away. Look at it coming away. It's just so white. There we go, just working down that one side here. You can see very, very gently. Look at, there you go. That's the type of skin we're talking about, this dead layer there. Guys, if you were playing bingo to this and you had the word skin in there, you would probably be absolutely. I heard a couple of people were saying they like to play a drinking game where they play bingo, on depending on what I say, because apparently I've got some very stock catchphrases. If the word skin was on your bingo card and you had to take a drink every time you do that, I feel sorry for you, because you're probably absolutely gone by now. But you can see this last little bit here. Really kind of trying to tidy up. I'm looking for pink skin. That's what I'm looking for, fresher pink skin underneath. So I'm going to probe this around the outside edge. Where are we going to go next? It's always difficult to kind of follow the geography, because all your anatomical pointers that you normally use to guide yourself within an ear canal here are missing. And there's so much debris in here, it becomes really, really difficult to differentiate what is, you know, dead skin, what is then the canal wall, because the last thing you want to do is accidentally kind of dig into the canal wall. Let's see if we can just tidy this up. What you can see us doing here, we're working, this is literally just in front of the eardrum. Now I know it's going to be really difficult for you guys to kind of discern that, but yeah, we're working just in front of the eardrum here. We've got some older, slightly harder pieces here, but we're going to peel some of this away. There we are. You can see that portion of the canal wall. That there we are. Look underneath that. That's that kind of fresher skin we're looking for. This kind of pinker skin here. Let's see if we can get a lot more of this. Look how that is peeling away there, guys. There's so much of it in there. Can you see those layers now? Can you see how this would come away in layers? So what you're looking at here is one layer. So all of those layers interwoven on top of one another like this. There we go. We're just going in now, going to probe around this next section. Very, very gently popping the suction on. We're looking to see how much give we get. There we are. Look at that section. It's reversed on here, isn't it? To the right hand side. Oh, we go back in now. So let's get rid of this bit first. There's a section to the right hand side that looked like it was just going to peel a little bit. See how loose that is there? All that dead material. Can we lift this? See how that's, as we tried to move that, you can see that was still quite firmly attached. So what I would want this patient to do now is you know, come back to us in about 6 months. We've done a lot here. Look at that starting to peel. There we go, there. Look at that material. See how that thick material is starting to peel away here from the canal wall. Very gently moving this away. and then you start to see some of the fresher skin underneath there. Can we get this top section away here? Can we draw this dead skin out? Let's see if we can get a grip on that top bit. See how it all anchors to one another. It really holds on tightly to the skin surrounding it. Oh, there we go. It's starting to come down. There we are. There we go. Nice big chunk of dead skin, that one. There we are. Let's take a look behind that now. There we go. So we've started to expose some of this fresher skin now. Now, what we've got here is almost this kind of quite granular material here at the bottom, and this is an indication that the skin is starting to really degrade underneath. So what I would do here, I'll take some of this away. There we go. You can see some of the sort of bigger, harder lumps away here, and there you go, the patient just moved a little bit. The patient actually coughed at that point. We triggered the Arnold's reflex off there. So we'll take some of these pieces away now, and then we're going to let this sit and get this patient back now in 6 months' time, and we'll just check them over again. Obviously taking away only 6 months worth of dead skin, which is going to help let this repair itself now, let the skin settle down. We can actually start to see the ear canal now. You can see how it goes off in all these different directions, because you've got a mastoid bone back here. So it goes off in multiple different directions here. There we are, just the looser material coming away, but patient really pleased to get this done, especially when they saw just how much. Now this is tough. You can see just how tough that is there, just passing the suction tube over the top. So that's actually really, really hardened up skin that's at the entrance, almost like a callus, if you like, at the entrance to the ear canal. But this is what we removed. So we've got 8 centimeters. Look at the size of the piece of skin, 3¼ inches. And this came out of the one ear canal. This isn't the first ear canal. This is just purely out of that cavity. So you can see how much material we've removed and why we have to kind of leave it at that point now and get them back in 6 months' time. Well, guys, that took a lot of talking from me. I hope you guys enjoyed that video as much as I did voicing it over. So as always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another. And I'll see you again real soon. Bye, everyone.